Well, swimmer Riley Gaines made global headlines when she tied with athlete Lia Thomas, who's a transgender swimmer. This is a person, of course, who's been dominating now women's swimming in America, despite having competed unsuccessfully as a biological male. Well, unlike many people in the same position, afraid of vilification, abuse and cancellation, Riley spoke out about it. She took a stand for women's athletes across the world. And as a result of that stand, she was last week physically assaulted and abused and howled at after being invited to speak at San Francisco State University. Well, this weekend, I spoke up for Riley Gaines in a debate on Bill Maher's HBO show Real Time, while debating a Democratic Congresswoman, Katie Porter.
We talked about people, using things to kind of get likes and get clicks.
That's not what she's doing.
It's not?
I've got no truck for Riley Gaines personally, but all I've seen her do is stand up for women's rights to fairness and equality.
But
She actually competed against Lia Thomas, and it was obviously unfair. Lia Thomas won one of the races in the NCAA championships by 50 seconds against a bunch of biological females who simply couldn't keep up. That cannot be right. It cannot be fair.
That is something that I think our sporting bodies should be dealing with. And by the way, Riley is speaking up for herself, and that is her prerogative, and I respect her free speech.
I think she's speaking up for pretty much every female athlete in the world. Now, that debate was astonishing on several levels. Firstly, that it fell to me and Bill Maher to defend women's rights against a woman arguing against them. And secondly, that the audience, packed with liberal Californians, a pretty woke crowd normally, were watching a famous liberal comedian and sided overwhelmingly with Bill and me defending Riley Gaines and women's rights to fairness. So I'm joined now by Riley Gaines. So Riley, great to see you. I don't know whether you've got a chance to actually watch what went down on the Bill Maher show, but it was fascinating to see the audience reaction because they completely agreed with me when I defended you and did not agree with the woman in the room.
Absolutely. When I watched this back, you just can't help but laugh. Just like you mentioned, it's ironic. It's always women fighting against women's sex-protected spaces and rights. It blows my mind, but I so appreciate both you and Bill standing up for myself because you hit the nail on the head. I'm speaking for every female athlete, not just myself. I'm done competing. This isn't about me, but I know what's at stake if someone doesn't use their voice. I have a younger sister. I just got married. I can only hope one day that I have a daughter, and I can't imagine being in this position and not fighting for them. But also I'm fighting for the present female athletes, Lia Thomas's teammates even, who have their voices suppressed. They see what happens to me when I go to San Francisco State, and they don't want to put themselves in a position where speaking out would garner that for them.
Right.
So it's a lot bigger than just myself. And to see Representative Katie Porter even say that, it clearly shows she knows nothing about what I've been doing this past year. Nothing has been for personal advancement. Nothing has been for monetary value for me. I was supposed to be in dental school this year. So by no means did I even feel equipped to do what I'm doing. This is not about me. And hearing her say that showed her true ignorance.
Yeah, I completely agree. And in fact, Lia Thomas today tweeted the following: "It breaks my heart to see trans kids across the country lose out on these opportunities. During a time of anti-trans backlash, the trans community needs explicit protections from discrimination in order to live our lives free and equally. All trans kids deserve the opportunity to compete and play in the sports they love without compromising who they are." Now, my problem with that, and I think you picked up on this as well in your response to Lia Thomas, is, well, what about fairness and equality for the women? For biological females, because clearly what Lia Thomas, a 6'4" biological male who did not compete successfully against men, but is now demolishing women in national championships, clearly that is unfair. Now, I want trans athletes to have fairness and equality. I want them to be able to play sport, but not at the expense of women's rights.
Exactly. The first sentence you said, I believe it was, Lia Thomas quoted saying, it breaks my heart to see trans kids lose out on opportunities. You're exactly right. Replace that with the word woman. Does it still break Thomas's heart to see women lose out on opportunities? Because that's exactly what's happening. From my experience competing against Lia Thomas at the national championships, I watched firsthand women lose out on opportunities. I watched women not become All-Americans, missing that 8th and 16th place by one place because they were displaced by a male. This, of course, goes against everything that Title IX was created to protect. And now we have the Biden administration, the people in the White House who are actively working to rewrite Title IX.
And
It
Title
just feels
IX, for
like
those who don't know, originated in the 70s, was designed to bring equality and fairness, irrespective of gender, to schools and education, and in particular to school sport. And clearly that is now not happening. And the Biden administration are effectively endorsing this unfairness.
absolutely, that's exactly what they're doing. Title IX, it's a civil federal rights law that ensures women essentially have the same opportunities as men, whether that be athletically, academically, the same amount of scholarships. We saw women fight for this in the 70s. We saw someone as amazing as Billie Jean King, Megan Rapinoe. These are feminists who fought for women's rights. But now both of these women, along with the Biden administration, they're actively working to undermine everything they once fought
Well,
for.
Megan Rapinoe was out there tweeting away that, this is all fantastic, and of course trans athletes should be doing this. And I made the point, well, how would she have felt if she'd lost her place in a national women's soccer team, which was obviously they were world champions, to a trans athlete who was 5 inches taller, stronger, faster, and much better at football, but who had been unsuccessful playing in a men's team? How would she have felt then?
Well, if you've ever seen Megan Rapinoe play, she's a very tough, aggressive player. So I can tell you exactly what I think she would have done. I think she genuinely would have shivved someone who tried to take her spot, a male who tried to take her spot. And I think it's worth mentioning that she's done playing. She has nothing to lose. She doesn't have a
Right.
daughter to defend. So for her, what to lose by almost virtue signaling, by coming off as kind and inclusive and welcoming and accepting and tolerant and loving and all of the things. But in reality, it's not kind to ask a girl to share a locker room with a man who's fully equipped with and exposing male parts. And it's not inclusive to ask a woman to smile and step aside on the podium so a man can take her trophy and take her spot in her honors.
Yeah, I just find this whole debate completely baffling. I don't understand why every woman in the world wouldn't join together and say this is outrageous. And it's the treachery from women like the Democrat Congresswoman Katie Porter, like Megan Rapinoe, like these others who should be doing a lot better than they are. But you know what? A lot of women are scared. They're scared to do what you've done. You went to San Francisco State University and, you were in fear of your life with that mob. And it was terrifying.
Absolutely. It sure was. I was essentially, I mean, I know you saw the video, but I was physically assaulted and I was held for ransom for 3 hours. I mean, these people who barricaded me in this room, they were demanding money if I wanted to make it home safely, which then the dean of students was actually negotiating with them. It's like, why are we negotiating my safe passage home? This is crazy. But you're exactly right. These girls, they're terrified. They're scared. Parents are even scared. They don't want to lose their job. Coaches, athletic directors, no one wants to be in a position where you ruffle feathers or step on toes, but that's what it's going to take. It's going to take sacrifices. It's going to take girls not willing to get up on that starting block, not jump when the gun blows. We need people who are willing to take that next step. And I know it's unfortunate that it's come to this circumstances to have to make change, but that's what it's going to take.
Riley, you're a gutsy woman. I've got to tell you, I've got great admiration for you and what you go through to make this point, because it's so important. It's basically the integrity of women's sport is at risk, real risk of being irrevocably destroyed. And I think that people like you should just be applauded by women around the world for making the stand you're doing, a great personal risk to yourself. So well done to you. Keep it going, and you'll always have me in your corner.
Of course. Thank you so much, Piers.
All the best. Thanks, Riley.